Sharing is caring. An introduction to BitTorrent. Ask anyone who's ever used the internet if they've ever tried to download something, and they'll probably say yes. You've probably had a similar experience yourself, and if you've ever tried to download a large file, or several files from a single server at once, you probably know that it can be a real pain. If the source of the file disconnects, you face not only a delay in the already expensive download time, but your only source of the file might have just vanished into the wilds of the internet. The traditional model of file sharing, with a single server doling out files to clients on a first-come, first-served basis, is woefully inadequate for such purposes. Thankfully, there is an alternative: BitTorrent. BitTorrent works in a slightly different way than the traditional model. In the traditional peer-to-peer system, files are distributed in a linear order to users who request a copy of the file on a first-come, first-served basis. This creates a scenario in which intense amounts of traffic are placed on single servers and their connections to the users. On a BitTorrent network, the person who has the original file or files creates a special kind of file known as a torrent and uploads this file to the tracker, a server which manages connections over a BitTorrent network for many torrent files at once. This user, and anyone else who hosts a completed version of the same file to other users, becomes known as a seed. Users can then download the .torrent file and eventually have a copy of this file on their own computers, and these users are known as peers, or less commonly as leeches. Torrent files are assigned a health status, proportional to the number of seeders and peers that were exchanging information when the tracker last checked. The more seeders, and to a lesser extent, the more peers a single torrent has, the healthier that torrent is said to be. The difference between BitTorrent and the standard model is in how distribution of the file or files takes place. The tracker literally tracks the peers on any given torrent and alerts the seeds to their presence. The seeds then begin handing out their file to the peers, but not in a linear order. The files are distributed in many pieces, and the peers then connect not only to the seeds, but then to each other as well to complete their file. Let us imagine that you wanted to give a 1,000-piece puzzle to all of your friends, one piece at a time, in the proper order, and magically all of your friends can replicate any piece that you give to them. Giving them all one piece at a time would take forever, so instead, you give them all different pieces, and allow them to work out among each other what remaining parts of the puzzle they need. This distributed workload model is what makes BitTorrent so effective, and allows even devices with limited bandwidth or processing power to contribute to the effectiveness of all the peers and seeds, a group known as a swarm. This system allows for many people to achieve a theoretical maximum download speed without taxing any single part of the system to a breaking point, as the traditional model would. Of course, there are some drawbacks. Remember the term leecher I mentioned earlier? Well, some people enjoy using the boosted speeds of BitTorrent-style networking without wanting to cramp their own, usually much smaller, upload pipeline. People who only download and never or rarely upload are known in the BitTorrent community as leeches, because the success of any torrent depends on the cooperation and contribution of everyone's bandwidth. Such selfish behavior has become frowned upon. Some trackers will differentiate between those who share and those who do not, and a torrent file with too many leeches can be rated as unhealthy. Additionally, some trackers for specific communities will watch a user's upload-download ratio. These records used to be kept private but are more and more frequently becoming public. This allows the community to police itself and to weed out leeches from within, thus ensuring the longevity of the system as a whole. Another drawback is that with no single location, like a server, to store files on, the availability of unpopular, obscure, or rare files or collections can be limited. Popular files have hundreds, if not thousands of seeders, but rare files may only have one seed, if there are any at all. There have been attempts to consolidate multiple trackers with the same file, which normally would not know the other existed at all, but as it stands today, these files can still be hard to complete a download of with this sort of distribution model, and users would probably be better off with a more traditional peer-to-peer distribution system. On the whole, however, there is hardly any more method, convenient, or as efficient when all the elements are in place, and so in our hearts, BitTorrent will always be number one. I am Alan Leach, and this has been a Bestgroup production.